Not long after the car left the school gate, Ce said, "My aunt asked me to pick you up from school. Does this mean that it was Dong Ruan's idea to pick me up from school and not his own?" Yun Jian nodded and answered without batting an eyelid. Yun Jian sat in the car. She was only wearing a short-sleeved shirt. The warm air from the heater in the car raised her temperature. Ce's driving skills were very good. He stepped on the accelerator tightly and sped wildly on the bustling street without hitting anyone. Yun Jian's driving skills in her previous life were among the best in the world. Ce's driving skills seemed to be on par with hers. However, if they were to really compare, perhaps there would be a different situation. Chapter 86. Speeding all the way home, Yun Jian did not look scared at all. There was not even a flicker in her gaze. A normal girl would have shrieked at the speed of the car. Ce narrowed his eyes. This girl was different from the rest since their first meeting. When they arrived at the villa, Yun Jian went straight to her bedroom. At this hour, both Dong Ruan, who was a high-ranking official, and Qin Yiru, who had gone out to work, were still at work. Therefore, there was only Yun Jian and Ce, who was in the room not far from hers, left in the villa. The atmosphere was strange. Yun Jian was already in her bedroom. She turned on her laptop and logged into the secret web page. Beep, beep, beep. After 3 beeps, a message popped up. It was a private message sent by Snake Lizard not long ago. It was short and simple. "I'm here." She had arrived in Longmen City. Yun Jian pursed her lips slightly as she typed, "Wait for me, I'm coming over now," on the keyboard. She then closed the web page and closed her laptop, changing her outfit and heading out. Just as she stepped out, she saw Ce, who was in the room next door, opening his door and coming out of his room. Yun Jian's eyes darted around as she went over and extended her hand without hesitation. "Lend me your Lamborghini." Ce raised his eyebrows and glanced at Yun Jian suspiciously. "You know how to drive?" He had checked the girl's background. She was born in an ordinary family and was still an underage girl. However, the truth was not as simple as it seemed. "Yes," Yun Jian answered with a wave of her hand. Ce was not stingy as he tossed the car keys to Yun Jian. The Lamborghini was a global limited edition supercar that he had personally modified. He would not lend it to anyone easily. He had never let anyone drive the car since it was in his hands. Yun Jian was the first person other than himself to have done so. He didn't even know why he lent his car to her. At this moment, Yun Jian had already sat in the front seat of the Lamborghini and started the engine. She stepped on the accelerator and the car roared like thunder. She tested the car's performance. The car's performance was very high. Compared to her favorite car in her previous life, the Ferrari LaFerrari, it was not inferior at all. Boom, boom, boom. With a final roar, Yun Jian stepped on the accelerator and released the clutch. The Lamborghini rushed out like a bolt of lightning. Golden Glitter Hotel. Yun Jian slammed on the brakes. The Lamborghini drifted at the entrance of the Golden Glitter Hotel and stopped steadily. The Glitter Hotel was a 5-star hotel in Longmen City. There was food and accommodation. More importantly, the hotel's interior decoration was classy, one of the best in Longmen City. Of course, in comparison, the consumption was one level higher. Even some of Longmen City's high-ranking officials, such as the mayor and secretary, would choose this hotel as the venue for important meetings. Chapter 87. Snake Lizard was good at hiding her identity. She could blend into every corner without being noticed. Therefore, Yun Jian searched around the corners the moment she entered the hotel and found Snake. Snake. Lizard was talking to the middle-aged man sitting opposite her. She stopped talking and looked at Yun Jian as soon as she sensed someone approaching. She could not help frowning when she saw Yun Jian slowly making her way over with both hands in her pockets. Who was this girl? Yun Jian looked nothing like how she did in her past life. Even her height and body shape were different. She was tall and seductive in her past life, but she was petite and cute now. It was no wonder that Snake Lizard did not recognize her. She became alert when she saw Yun Jian walking toward them. What's wrong? The middle-aged man did not notice Yun Jian walking toward them. He found it strange that Snake Lizard stopped talking. Just as the middle-aged man finished his question, Yun Jian was already in front of them. The middle-aged man was stunned. When he saw Yun Jian clearly, he thought that she was a little girl who was here to cause trouble. He waved at Yun Jian. "Little girl, go over there if you want to play. Uncle and sister have something important to discuss." The middle-aged man pointed at the door as he spoke, obviously thinking that Yun Jian had gone to the wrong place. Yun Jian ignored the middle-aged man's explanation. She looked at Snake Lizard with her clear eyes and pursed her lips slightly. She spoke in German using a code that only Snake Lizard and her knew when she was slaying God in her past life. Slaying is not a god snake. Lizard is not a lizard. Professional assassins like them were proficient in foreign languages. They had come into contact with languages from big countries to small villages. This code word was set by her and Snake. Lizard back then, and when saying this code word, it had to be said in German or it would be ineffective. What's that? Little girl, what are you talking about? The middle-aged man did not understand German at all and had no idea what Yun Jian was doing. Just as he was about to drive Yun Jian away, he saw Snake. Lizard suddenly stand up. Because of the shock, the corner of her clothes accidentally brushed the teacup on the table. Fortunately, Snake. Lizard was quick and she immediately caught the teacup. You. The snake lizard moved its lips. However, Yun Jian put her index finger to her lips and made a shu expression. Even this action was exactly the same as slaying gods. Snake. Lizard forcibly suppressed the shock in its heart. In fact, in the eyes of Snake, Lizard and the others, Yun Jian had already disappeared. Because they only found Yun Jian's beloved car, the Ferrari sports car, but she was missing. Yun Jian never left this sports car. Even when she was out on a mission, she would drive it everywhere. The car was still there and the people were still there. But now the car was here and there was no news of the person. That meant, but not long ago Yun Jian took the initiative to contact her. Snake. Lizard was particularly surprised at that time, but at the same time she was relieved that Yun Jian was fine. Of course, who was slaying God? The #1 special agent. How could something have happened to her? However, until Yun Jian said the code and did the action, the questions in her heart seemed to have been answered. I'll settle your matter in a few days. You can leave now, Snake. Lizard looked at Yun Jian and said to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was stunned and dumbfounded. What was going on? This little girl who came out of nowhere was spouting nonsense. He did not know what she meant, but Snake. Lizard was asking him to leave now? However, the middle-aged man dared not provoke Snake. Lizard, so he could only turn around and leave. Chapter 89. Yuni was handsome. He was the tallest and most handsome person in the group. However, it also attracted the jealousy of the other boys in the class. Most of the girls in the class were looking at Yuni. All of them blushed and did not even look at the other boys. The boy just now was the one in Yunyi's class who disliked him the most. His name was Wu Kuang. Wu Kuang was not very good looking. Although he was quite tall, he was a little fat. His face was covered with acne. Because his family was rich, it was inevitable that he felt that he was better than others. He was arrogant and domineering. Most of the students in Yunyi's class were from the city. Their families were quite rich. The whole class was invited to Su Haoko's birthday party. Of course, there were also many students who did not attend the party. Yunyi and Su Haoko were close friends. Of course, it was impossible for him not to give face and not attend. Wu Kuang took advantage of this. In addition, most of the students who came to the party today were from rich families. He came up with this idea to embarrass Yunyi. Yunyi was really embarrassed by Wu Kuang's words. After all, it was his good friend's birthday party. Although Su Haoko had told him not to send any gifts and that it was fine as long as he came, the thought was the most important. However, he saw that all the classmates who came with him had given red packets. On the other hand, he who was the closest to Su Haoko did not pay a single cent and came to eat and drink for free. What did it look like? However, Yuni really did not have any money. At most, he only had a few yuan. He had saved it for a few months. After all, his family situation was also there. Now he was even living in someone else's house. How could he have spare money? Wu Kuang snickered in his heart. He was waiting to see Yun Yi's embarrassed face. Brother? At this moment, a beautiful and crisp voice came in time. The voice was crisp and pleasant like the sound of nature. A girl about 15 years old walked down the spiral stairs. This girl was wearing ordinary clothes and behind her was a woman wearing a hat. However, what made people's eyes light up was the girl's beautiful and delicate little face. Yun Jian walked over and stood beside Yun Yi. She ignored the others and smiled at Yun Yi. Brother, why are you here? Xiao Jian? Yun Yi was taken aback. She wanted to ask Yun Jian the same question but she was one step ahead of her. It's his birthday today. He's treating everyone to a banquet here. Our classmates are all here to celebrate his birthday. Yun Yi's awkwardness eased a little when she saw her younger sister. He even felt that as long as his sister was around, there was nothing that couldn't be done. Oh. Yun Jian pretended to understand what was going on. She nodded and then burst into a bright smile. Then you shouldn't mind if I bring my friends along for a free meal, right? As she spoke, Yun Jian shifted to the side and revealed snake. Lizard as well. The others could not help rolling their eyes inwardly when they heard Yun Jian. They had seen shameless people, but they had never seen someone as shameless as her, coming up to ask for a free meal. Yun Yi, who had never seen snake, lizard before, was surprised and looked at Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, she's my friend, Yun Jian answered with half-squinted eyes. Yun Yi, this is your younger sister? Wu Yin looked at Yun Yi with gritted teeth when she saw that her scheme did not work and was interrupted by Yun Jian. Wu Yin did not wait for Yun Yi to admit that Yun Jian was her younger sister and said eagerly, Yun Yi, your sister's bringing her friends to the gathering too? That's not very nice, is it? Su Hao Cole is treating our classmates to a meal out of kindness. We'll forget about your share, but if there are 2 more people. The meaning behind her words was self-evident. Chapter 90. Sure enough, as soon as Wu Yin finished speaking, not only Yun Yi, but also some of the classmates around them could hear Wu Yin's strong hostility towards Yun Yi. They all showed a trace of embarrassment. Wu Yin did not give up. He smiled evilly and did not feel that he had just said anything overboard. Instead, he added fuel to the fire and said to Yun Yi in a charitable tone, forget it. I think Yun Yi, I'll pay for your red packets. As he spoke, Wu Yin took out a leather wallet from his trouser pocket and took out 3 red Grandpa Mao notes from the wallet. When he did this, he deliberately paid attention to the gazes of the group of people around him. He put on airs as if he was superior to others. Wow, Wu Yin, is the wallet in your hand made of real leather? It's so cool. This style hasn't been sold in the market yet. At this time, a boy in the group with big glasses sighed. The boy's words made Wu Yin even more proud. Wu Yin held the 3 cute Grandpa Mao notes in his hand. He was not in a hurry to use it to humiliate Yun Yi. Instead, he boasted even more. Now, the way he looked at others changed. This wallet was a birthday gift from my uncle this year. It was imported from France. As he said this, Wu Yin raised his head proudly and showed off. As he spoke, Wu Yin turned to look at Yun Yi. He looked at him with a charitable gaze and handed the 3 Grandpa Mao notes to Yun Yi. Take it. You don't have to return it. His tone was very domineering. It was as if the 300 yuan was nothing in his eyes. He used it to highlight his family's strong foundation. Yun Yi clenched his fist. Seeing Wu Yin humiliate him like this, he almost raised his fist and punched him. But he held back. Take the money back. We don't need it. Yun Yi gritted his teeth. Their family was poor, but even if they were poor with dignity. Hey, Yun Yi. I was kind enough to help you out. Why don't you appreciate it? Wu Yin pursed his lips and even accused Yun Yi, saying that he was ungrateful. Yun Yi's face darkened. Yun Jian saw her brother being bullied by Wu Yin. Naturally, she would not sit by and do nothing. Snake. Lizard, who was standing behind Yun Jian, finally understood the whole story. She remained silent and waited for Yun Jian's instructions. You want to give a red packet if you stay for dinner, right? Yun Jian blinked, replacing Yun Yi Wu Yin. Everyone is prepared to give it to you. You can't just give it to the white sheep empty-handed, right? Little girl, your brother hasn't accepted my goodwill yet. Why don't you hold on to this money for him? Wu Chang waved the 3 red banknotes in his hand and told Yun Jian boastfully. To Wu Qiao, he only had one goal, to embarrass Yun Yi. The rest of the process was not important. It was apparent that Wu Qiao had thought of her as a girl who came from a poor family and was greedy for money. Of course we want to give a red packet. Chapter 91. 3 thick stacks of red notes meant 30,000 yuan. Moreover, the money came from Snake. Lizard's purse. In other words, Snake. Lizard's purse was filled to the brim with cash. Prices were low in this day and age. It was already impressive for a student like Wu Qiao to be able to fork out 100 yuan. At the very least, the parents of these students were high-ranking officials or entrepreneurs. They could fork out 100 yuan, but 1,000 yuan was not a small sum. 1,000 yuan was enough for a normal family to live for a long time. Therefore, everyone present was dumbfounded when they saw the scene just now, their eyes nearly falling out of their sockets. Yun Yi was poor, so was his younger sister. Why would his sister's friend have so much money in her purse? More importantly, why had Snake? Lizard obeyed Yun Jian's command just like that? Xiao Jianyu. Yun Yi's eyes widened as she stared at Yun Jian and Snake. Lizard behind her in disbelief. His younger sister was getting more mysterious. Mysterious skills, mysterious friends. Why was it that he could not see through her anymore? They were siblings who grew up together, but Yun Yi froze on the spot as if it was his first time meeting Yun Jian. Yun Jian cast a reassuring look at Yun Yi without explaining anything. Wu Qiao, on the other hand, felt like running away. His palms were sweating as he gripped the 3 notes in his hand that he thought he could humiliate Yun-yi. Looking at the 3 stacks of cash in Snake Lizard's hand, he felt defeated. Now that he thought about it, how ridiculous was his action just now. It was then that a male voice that eased the awkward atmosphere rang. "Yeah, everyone's here already. Come upstairs quickly, we're waiting for you guys." As the voice faded, Su Hao Cole, who was dressed in a flashy suit, came down the spiral staircase. His tall and muscular physique was as handsome as Yun-yi's. Su Hao Cole was stunned when he saw Yun Jian before he ran to Yun Jian under everyone's surprised gazes and looked at her with admiration. "Yini Mimi, you're here too. Come, take a seat. I'm so happy that you're here for my birthday celebration today." Su Hao's actions caused everyone present to be even more shocked. This girl was valued by Su Hao Cole now? Combined with the scene just now, it seemed that this girl was not simple at all. Yun-yi's younger sister was not simple, not ordinary. Yun Jian smiled at Su Hao Cole and returned to her usual demeanor. Then she pointed at the 3 stacks of bills in Su Hao Cole's hands and said, "This money is the red packet that everyone prepared for you." She really dared to give it to him? That was a total of 30,000 yuan. The group of people thought that Yun Jian wanted to avenge her brother, so she took out 30,000 yuan. However, they did not expect that she really intended to give it to him. 30,000 yuan, this was not a joke. This. Su Hao Cole glanced at it and was shocked. "Take it." Yun Jian winked at Su Hao Cole and said. Su Hao Cole, who did not understand the situation, really thought that it was a red packet from his classmates. He thought that his classmates were really generous this time, so he accepted the red packets without any embarrassment. At this moment, Wu Kuang's expression was the ugliest. After all, he was the one who suggested this. The classmates present were not short of money. Even if they really had to give 1,000 yuan, although it was a little too much, it would still give them face. Chapter 92. Yun-yi's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but he stopped himself. In the end, Su Hao Cole gathered everyone on the 2nd floor and seated them at the hot pot table in the VIP private room. There were about a dozen round hot pot tables in the VIP private room, and each table could seat about 10 people. It was obvious that Su Hao Cole had reserved the entire place. Of course, only 2 to 3 hot pot tables were taken after everyone was seated. The remaining tables were used for other purposes. Yun Jian was sitting on the left of her brother Yun-yi, while Snake Lizard was on her right. Su Hao Cole was sitting beside Yun-yi. All 4 of them were seated close to each other at the same table. "The dishes are ordered. I've told the waiter that our table will be served first. My dad's business friends will be here later. Don't be shy, then we can talk among ourselves." Su Hao Cole spoke to his rowdy classmates after he sat down. To outsiders, Su Hao Cole's family was rich and powerful, and his father was a businessman. However, Yun Jian knew that Su Hao Cole was the son of Longmen City's top mafia boss. As for the friends of my father's business that he mentioned, he was probably referring to the people in that circle. Su Hao Cole's father was obviously using his son's birthday party as an excuse to invite his peers or people who were useful to him to the gathering and build a better relationship with these people. After all, if a gang wanted to survive, they needed to develop over a long period of time. They couldn't just rely on themselves. They could not rely on themselves alone, especially when important matters were involved, such as a large-scale mafia fight. Even the police officers in the police station had to build a good relationship with them. Otherwise, if someone in the mafia killed someone or there was a mafia fight, the police officers were not idiots. How could they not do anything when they knew about it and let the mafia do whatever they wanted? Yun-yi was also aware of his good friend's identity, but he chose to keep quiet. From the moment he and Su Hao Cole became brothers, they would not taunt each other because of each other's identity. After a while, the dishes were served. The waiter served the dishes one by one, and the group of people ate happily. After all, eating at the Golden Sparkle Hotel was very expensive. Even if most of the people present had a good foundation, it was impossible for them to eat here often. Otherwise, wouldn't he be broke from eating? Yun Jian sat in her seat and picked the big and fat meat to eat. Her stamina couldn't keep up, so she had to eat more energy. Simply running wasn't enough strength anymore. "Slow down, Xiaojian. No one's fighting with you." Seeing this, Yun-yi smiled handsomely and reached out to wipe off the meat residue on his sister's mouth. "Ha, Mère Gu, this way please." At this moment, a loud male voice came from the door. Chapter 93. The man standing next to Su Ziqian was Mayor Gu. Mayor Gu was the mayor of Longmen City. His official position was one of the highest in the entire city, and his political status in Longmen City was extraordinary as well. As a mafia boss, it was not surprising that Su Ziqian had dealings with people from the government. Yun Jian narrowed his eyes as he watched Su Ziqian and the others coming in. Su Ziqian did not see Snake, Lizard and Yun Jian at all. He was smiling and nodding at his son, Su Haokol, before following Mayor Gu into the private room to sit at an empty hot pot table. The others followed suit and sat at the empty seats around them. These people were high-ranking officials, triads, or business tycoons. Their social status was not low. They knew how to blend into the environment quickly and find companions who could benefit them, building a closer relationship and seeking cooperation that was mutually beneficial. This was the purpose of their gathering. They were not really here to celebrate Su Ziqian's son, Su Haokol's birthday. Su Haokol was more or less disappointed that his father did not even wish him a happy birthday. Even his birthday party was a pretense to expand his influence. It was the same every year, but when he was filled with anticipation and was disappointed again and again, it was like a beloved toy being cruelly smashed in front of him and he was helpless to do anything about it. Su Haokol could only bury his emotions deep down to prevent others from noticing his predicament. Happy birthday. It was at this juncture that Yun Yi seemed to have noticed Su Haokol's mournful gaze. He placed his slender hand on Su Haokol's broad shoulder to comfort Su Haokol. Happy birthday. With Yun Yi taking the lead, everyone present congratulated Su Haokol after hearing it. Su Haokol pursed his thin lips. His voice became a little hoarse and the gratitude in his eyes was genuine. Thank you everyone. All right. We're all old classmates. There's no need to thank me. It's what I should do. Someone mumbled. His words moved Su Haokol even more. Yun Jian also followed the trend and shouted, "Happy birthday," to Su Haokol. However, her attention was actually focused on Su Ziqian. Snake. Lizard had explained Su Ziqian's identity to her, including why Snake. Lizard had met Su Ziqian. Yun Jian did not expect Su Ziqian to be a member of the kosher mercenaries. However, Su Ziqian's influence in the kosher mercenaries was very small. Just like the members of the kosher mercenaries were scattered all over the world, there were at least a few 100,000 of them. Furthermore, this group of people was divided into different groups. For example, the intelligence team, the assassination team, the investigation team, and so on. Su Ziqian was merely a small force of the kosher mercenaries in Longmen City. As the boss of the kosher mercenaries in her past life, Yun Jian had left everything to Tiger, Leopard and Snake, Lizard to manage. It was only natural that she did not know of Su Ziqian's existence. Although Su Ziqian was a member of the kosher mercenaries, if he wanted to meet Yun Jian, it would be like an ordinary person meeting the country's president in her past life. Who knew that Yun Jian would end up in Longmen City after going around in circles one day? The wine glass in Su Ziqian's hand that was sitting not far away suddenly fell to the ground with a bang and shattered into pieces. His calm demeanor when he was conversing with Mayor Gu crumbled instantly. It was because Su Ziqian had just looked up when he saw Snake. Lizard. Terrified, he abandoned Mayor Gu and walked over to her under everyone's gaze. Everyone was shocked that Su Ziqian would abandon the influential Mayor Gu and walk over to a woman. What was he doing? Su Ziqian asked Snake. Lizard carefully, "You're here too? Why didn't you say anything? Do you want to sit over there?" Who was this woman? How could she be more dignified than Mayor Gu? Everyone was shocked, including Mayor Gu himself. Snake. Lizard then turned to look at Yun Jian, waiting for Yun Jian's opinion. With that, everyone's gaze was focused on Yun Jian. Chapter 94. I'll sit with my brother. Yun Jian did not look up. Wiping her mouth, she smiled faintly and stuffed another mouthful of fatty meat into her mouth. Snake. Lizard turned to look at Su Ziqian when she heard Yun Jian. You don't have to mind us. It was only then that Su Ziqian noticed Yun Jian. Yun Jian had her hair tied in a high ponytail. Although she was dressed plainly, she exuded the aura of a ruler. Was this not the girl he met downstairs not long ago? He thought she had gone to the wrong place and asked her to stay away. What was the situation now though? Snake. Lizard was a high-ranking member of the kosher mercenaries. Su Ziqian had no right to know her exact position. He only knew that Snake. Lizard held an extraordinary position in the kosher mercenaries. Even so, Su Ziqian could only admire Snake. Lizard's status. Now, even someone like Snake. Lizard had to lower her head in front of Yun Jian. Who was this little girl? Su Ziqian knew that Snake. Lizard was the highest-ranking member of the kosher mercenaries. His legs would have turned to jelly from shock. If he knew that the seemingly harmless Yun Jian was the biggest boss of the kosher mercenaries, he would have fainted and been sent to the hospital. However, Su Ziqian did not know. Such was the way of the world. Su Zichin was the boss of the top mafia group in Longmen City, a big shot who could do anything he wanted. However, he did not even know who the biggest boss of the kosher mercenaries was. All right. Su Zichin could only wipe his slippery lips and bow to Yun Jian and Snake Lizard before he slowly walked back to Mayor Gu, his body tense. Wow, Yunyi, your sister's friend knows Su Haokol's father? Once Su Zichin left, a girl sitting at the same table asked Yunyi with a surprised gaze, obviously trying to strike up a conversation with Yunyi. Yunyi was very popular in the class, especially the girls. They all liked her. Moreover, Yunyi was a sincere and gentle person. I don't know. Yunyi awkwardly glanced at Yin Jian and Snake Lizard, trying to change the topic. He wanted to know why Xiao Jian's friend knew his father too. Others might not know, but Yunyi knew very well that Su Haokol's father was not a model businessman, but a mafia boss. Xiao Jian's friend knew the mafia boss, and most importantly, the boss was respectful toward her. Even when he was chatting with a big shot like Mayor Gu, he could actually abandon it and come over to greet him first. At the moment, Yun Jian, who was the source of everyone's suspicion, was sitting in her seat and devouring the plate of meat in front of her. Burp. Just as everyone stared at Yun Jian eagerly, hoping to hear some explanation from Yun Jian burped out of the blue. I'm full. Yun Jian rubbed her tummy and returned a sweet smile to the group. The smiles on everyone's faces instantly stiffened. There was no doubt that a wave of shock washed over them. Was there no explanation? Chapter 96. While Su Haokol was exchanging the game coins, Yun Jian glanced around. If it wasn't for her brother Yun Yi coming here, Yun Jian wouldn't have come to this place. To Yun Jian, the shooting games here were too childish. The rain of bullets she experienced in her previous life wasn't any less than what was shown in the gun simulation game. I'm back. Su Haokol held a pile of game coins and ran back from the counter. Then Su Haokol divided the game coins equally among everyone. There were quite a few people standing in front of the gun-emulating game console. Because this game console was a new simulation game, even the guns were about the same weight as real guns. Although they were shooting at the big screen, the effect was quite similar to a real gun. The students of this era all wanted to try their hand at a gun, so there were a lot of people here to watch the shooting. There were also a lot of people playing the shooting game. Hey, it seems like we have to wait. There are too many people waiting to play the gun simulation game. Su Haokol touched his head and said, boys were passionate about guns and racing, but girls were different. So in the group, except for Yun Jian, the other girls all went to play other games. For example, the claw machine, which was suitable for girls to play. At this time, in front of the gun simulation game, a group of young people shouted, "Wow!" They saw a man in his 20s standing in front of the gun simulation game. The man put away his gun and showed a triumphant smile. This gun game was to shoot at the target on the screen with a gun. Of course, this gun didn't have bullets, but it gave people a visual feeling of hitting the target on the screen. And besides the fact that there were no bullets, whether it was the feel of the gun or the simulation, it was first class. So when this game was released, it attracted a lot of young people who liked to play with guns. Wow, Brother Lei is amazing. No wonder he has touched a real gun. He knocked down 32 targets in 1 minute. A boy standing not far away bragged to the man holding the gun. It was as if he was afraid that people didn't know that this man in his 20s had touched a real gun. Sure enough, when they heard that the man called Brother Lei had touched a real gun, the surrounding people were so surprised that they gasped. Now Brother Lei was even more proud of himself. This is nothing. You haven't touched a real gun. There is a difference between a real gun and a toy gun. Brother Lei boasted. He was so proud that his nose was almost higher than his eyes. Are you done playing? Can you move aside if you are done? Su Haokol saw that Brother Lei's group had finished playing and didn't move aside, so he went forward and asked. At this moment, Brother Lei, who was still under everyone's admiring gazes, glared at Su Haokol fiercely. Where did you King brat come from? How dare you snatch my game console? Brother Lei clenched his fists and bumped them together. He looked like he was about to fight and showed off. He was very proud. It was as if he was saying, if you say one more word, I will beat you up. Su Haokol opened his mouth. He had only asked one question, but Brother Lei was already angry. Just when he was about to reply, Yun Jian spoke first and directly attacked his back. You only knocked down 32 targets in 1 minute. Your shooting moves are flashy and extremely gaudy. You should move aside. Everyone was stunned. They saw Yun Jian criticizing Brother Lei word by word. Every word she said hit his weak spot. Brother Lei's expression became worse. Little brat, it's not that I want to bully you, but just based on what you said just now, if you don't hit as many targets as I do this round, then you better strip naked and kneel in front of my brothers. Brother Lei growled in exasperation and threatened. Xiao Jian, don't. Yunyi panicked. She panicked when she saw her younger sister getting into a fight with Brother Lei, who was obviously a hooligan. These hooligans are capable of doing anything. Before Yunyi could shout, however, she was held back by Su Haokol. Believe your younger sister. Don't you want to see your younger sister's limit? Su Haokol told Yunyi softly, looking at Yun Jian. This simulation game console could test a person's marksmanship, which was why Su Haokol wanted to lure Yun Jian here. He wanted to know how good Yun Jian's marksmanship was since she could kill a sniper instead. Yun Jian smiled in a way that sent chills down one's spine. She told Brother Lei faintly, I'll cripple one of your hands after I win. She would not forgive anyone who insulted her verbally. How arrogant. Chapter 98. Brother Lei smirked deviously, his gaze already scanning Yun Jian from head to toe as if he was certain that Yun Jian would lose and was already fantasizing about her naked body. Then we'll talk about it after you win me? Brother Lei glanced at Yun Jian condescendingly with a smirk. How could Brother Lei take Yun Jian's threat seriously? Even Brother Lei's buddies would not take Yun Jian's words seriously. What a joke. How could Brother Lei lose to an underage girl? Therefore they could not wait to see Yun Jian lose and beg for mercy, only to be stripped naked by them. Brother Lei and his gang had done this many times. They were all gangsters in the society. What had they not done before? They would snatch any woman they fancied. If they could not get their hands on her, they would rape her, drug her, and force themselves on her. Did they not subdue her in the end? Everyone knew that Yun Jian was pretty. In fact, when Yun Jian and Brother Lei were at loggerheads in the beginning, Brother Lei's buddies had been eyeing Yun Jian. That was why Yunyi was anxious. How could he pretend that he did not know that his younger sister was being eyed around by Brother Lei and his gang? Come on, little girl. Why aren't you here yet? Don't tell me you're too scared to come? One of Brother Lei's buddies could not help urging when he saw that Yun Jian had yet to go to the game console. Yun Jian smirked coldly and tossed a small pile of tokens in her palm into the air before catching them handsomely. She then took out another token with her other hand and passed the rest to Yunyi. Brother, hold these for me, Yun Jian told Yunyi. Xiao Jian, don't force yourself. Yunyi bit his lip and said worriedly. Although Yun Jian had killed the sniper that day as her brother, he was still worried about his sister. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Her heart felt warm. It felt good to have someone backing him up. Before Yun Jian went over to the console, she turned her head to look at Su Haokol, revealing a row of white and clean front teeth. Watch carefully. After saying that, Yun Jian walked towards the game console. Su Haojia, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. Yun Jian actually knew why he brought her here? Su Haokol just whispered to Yunyi, but he didn't expect that Yun Jian already knew. That was why she told him, watch carefully, before she left. Su Haokol felt his cheeks heat up at once, feeling embarrassed to be exposed by Yun Jian. Come to think of it, it was no big deal. He just wanted to know how good her marksmanship was. There was nothing wrong with that. While Su Haokol was thinking about it, Yun Jian was not in a hurry to insert the game token. Instead, she lifted the toy sniper rifle in front of her and weighed it in her hand. When everyone saw this, they couldn't help but be stunned. What was she doing? Yun Jian was checking the difference between the game sniper rifle's configuration and a real one. When the game ended, the 4 big words and a string of numbers that appeared on the screen brought everyone's emotions to the climax. On the big screen, 6 big red words popped out. Highest record. Below the words in white letters, 203. Yun Jian hit 203 targets in 1 minute. Oh my god. Did I see it wrong? Guns to play to shoot. This girl is so cool. Did you see her shooting posture just now? She's so cool. Some of the boys who were naturally fond of guns almost jumped up in excitement when they saw this scene. Brother Lei, who had shot 32 targets in 1 minute, was already very good. But what about Yun Jian? She had hit 203 targets in 1 minute. How could they compete with such results? Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter. Didn't you see that? She didn't miss a single bullet just now. This girl must be a sharpshooter. The audience was in an uproar, which even attracted the attention of a group of people who were playing other games. At this time, Yun Jian, who had gently put down the imitation gun in her hand, stood up and walked towards Brother Lei with a smile. Chapter 101. The crowd, who had thought that Yun Jian was a pretty, thin and weak girl, looked at Yun Jian in disbelief. Their eyes were wide open. How was this girl thin and weak? Just because Brother Lei pointed his finger at her, she crippled one of his hands. Such a domineering way of doing things made everyone extremely shocked. She was a demon that was 10 times scarier than Brother Lei. Yun Jian narrowed her beautiful eyes. She glanced sideways at Brother Lei and his gang, who were staring at her. She smirked and said provocatively, "Why aren't you leaving? Do you want to roll on the ground like him?" As she spoke, she pointed at Brother Lei, who was rolling on the ground in pain, and smiled like a flower. When Brother Lei's buddies heard what Yun Jian said, and with Brother Lei as a precedent, they felt chills running down their spines when they looked at Yun Jian's smirk again. How would they dare to stay there? Hence, the group of people lifted Brother Lei, who was rolling on the ground in pain, and disappeared from the spot at lightning speed. The two men who carried Brother Lei out of the room were almost tripped by the door because they were in a hurry. They managed to dodge the door and ran faster than a monkey. The group of people who were watching the show laughed loudly. Who would have thought that Brother Lei and his gang would be the ones who ran away in the end? Yun Jian's eyes lit up. She turned to look at Yun Yi and the rest and asked, "Do you guys still want to play games?" Everyone instantly shook their heads like waves. What a joke. With a godly sharpshooter like Yun Jian as a foil, wouldn't they be looking for trouble and deliberately embarrassing themselves if they went to play games? However, the group of people didn't expect that Yun Yi's sister was not only good at shooting, but she was also so cool when she beat people up. When Yun Jian broke Brother Lei's wrist just now, no one saw clearly how she did it. After bidding farewell to Su Hao Cole and the rest, Yun Jian and Yun Yi were walking back to the villa. It was almost 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The night breeze blew past. As Yun Yi had given his jacket to Yun Jian, he was shivering in his short-sleeved shirt. "Brother, I just exercised. My whole body is warm now. You can wear this jacket yourself." Yun Jian took off his jacket and returned it to Yun Yi. She didn't allow Yun Yi to say anything else. Yun Yi opened his mouth, his handsome lips breaking into a smile as his thin lips brushed lightly. His sister was concerned about him. How could he reject his sister's good intentions? Hence, Yun Yi hurriedly put his jacket back on. When they returned to the villa, the lights were still on, the house was still on the house. Dong Guan was an official, so he rarely returned home. Sometimes he would even stay out all night because he was busy. Her son, on the other hand, had been entrusted to a teacher in an aristocratic school, so she was rarely home. Chapter 102. Yun Jian was dumbfounded. She paused and caught the jacket Yi tossed to her. She hesitated before putting it on slowly and said blankly, "I've left your car with my friend. I'll return it to you tomorrow." Yi nodded and glanced at Yun Jian with his deep gaze before turning away. Without even a word of farewell, his tall and handsome figure disappeared from Yun Jian's sight. Yun Jian was stunned again. She pressed her dry lips together and grinned. The next morning Yun Jian had Snake Lizard drive Yi's Lamborghini back and returned it to him along with the car keys. Yun Jian then went out with Snake Lizard. She had just settled down in Longmen City, but she had decided to start a business in Longmen City a long time ago. Yun Jian had always been a person who took responsibility for her actions. Since she had said it, she would do it without any hesitation. Zhang Jifan and the rest had been brought to Longmen City by Yun Jian before Yun Jian came. They were even staying in a rented house in Longmen City. Of course, all of this was secretly arranged by Yun Jian. Qin Yiru and Yun Yi were completely unaware of it. Country Z's economy had just taken off and the people's lives were gradually moving from poverty to prosperity. In the past, people used to travel on foot, but in this era, it was gradually being replaced by vehicles like bicycles and motorcycles. A vehicle like a car could only be bought by a few wealthy families. However, as the times changed, cars would be brought to the world stage sooner or later and replace them as the most convenient means of transportation. In other words, every household would be able to afford a car one day. Of course, all of this was inferred by Yun Jian based on the current situation and business trends. She had also fact-checked it. Places like Europe and America that were economically advanced and had a high standard of living were gradually developing in this direction. In spite of this, it was proven that Yun Jian's inference was accurate. Of course, this was a story for another time. Yun Jian planned to start a car marketing company. The idea might seem absurd. She was just an underage girl who was not even 18 years old, yet she wanted to start a car store? However, it was undeniable that starting a company required investment and Yun Jian had the money. She had channels to import cars from home and abroad as well. When Yun Jian told Zhang Jifan and the rest about her idea, Zhang Jifan and the rest felt their eyelids twitch and they almost fainted from shock. "What? You want to start a car company?" Zhang Jifan stuttered as he looked at Yun Jian in shock and fear. In this era, Anyone who owned a motorbike at home could use it to look cool. A car was simply a symbol of the rich. What's more, to run such a car company, the number of cars needed was more than just a few. Secondly, they needed to have working capital. Secondly, they needed to go through the application process and they needed to have a sales store. These were all essential procedures. Yun Jian nodded and leaned her slender legs against the corner of the table. She smiled naturally at Zhang Jifan and said, "I've said that you don't need to worry about the company's investment. What you need to do is to manage this company for me." How could she not make money when there was a chance for her to make it? Only with investment could she make a profit. Yun Jian would never do a losing business. Me? Zhang Jifan pointed at himself and was stunned again. It's you. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and wiped her red lips. And this company will be registered under your name. After a pause, Yun Jian exuded a confident glow. Zhang Jifan and the rest could not help but look at her in a new light. The name of the new company will be. Yun Jian raised her eyes slightly and looked ahead with a smile. New start. A new life, a new start. Chapter 103. Zhang Jifan was stupefied. He did not expect Yun Jian to trust him so much. Yun Jian was fully responsible for the investment, so he did not have to worry about the company's startup. However, he would still have to put his name on the company when it was registered. Such a good thing was hard to come by even in 8 lifetimes. At the same time, Zhang Jifan was certain of one thing. Whether he could walk this path with Yun Jian or not, he would not be disloyal. Sister Jian, don't worry. I, Zhang Jifan, guarantee you that I'll do my best. Zhang Jifan promised Yun Jian heavily. Ever since they were taken in by Yun Jian that day, Zhang Jifan and his buddies had regarded Yun Jian as their boss and called her Sister Jian. If Zhang Jifan became the company's leader, his buddies would naturally be the company's pioneers as well. The buddies looked at Yun Jian passionately and promised in unison. Sister Jian, we promise that we won't be disloyal. We swear to follow you to the end. Yun Jian nodded with a smile and told Zhang Jifan subtly, send in the company's application form as soon as possible. Also, keep an eye out for the storefront and let me know when you find it. You don't have to worry about anything else. Zhang Jifan nodded. Coming out of the rented apartment where Zhang Jifan and his buddies stayed, Yun Jian and Snake Lizard walked on the road. You're still as greedy for money as before. You own a few major international corporations but you still don't let go of any chance to earn money, Snake Lizard walked beside Yun Jian and teased Yun Jian when she did not say anything just now. Yun Jian suddenly grinned and glanced at Snake Lizard from the corner of her eyes with a hint of teenage innocence. If one doesn't love money, the devil takes the hindmost. Who can say no to money? Snake Lizard was a rather aloof person. Hearing Yun Jian's words, she could not help smiling but keep quiet. On Monday, Yun Jian returned to school. Running a company couldn't be rushed, especially when it came to the application process. At this moment, Yun Jian was already sitting in class. She twirled the black pen in her hand in boredom and looked around leisurely. Once class ended, the 2 clowns, Chen Xini and Zhang Xiaofeng, came running to Yun Jian. Hey master, it's been so many days. You should teach your disciple some powerful skills, right? Just like that move of yours last time. You didn't even need to look at the ground to know that I was going to hook you with my leg, and you even had the time to kick me back. That move is really cool. Zhang Xiaofeng's handsome face moved closer, and he said to Yun Jian with admiration and admiration. Chen Xini pushed Zhang Xiaofeng away and said to Yun Jian with a smile, don't mind him, don't mind him. Jian Jian, let's talk among ourselves. Since Yun Jian transferred to Class A of E High School, there had been plenty of people who tried to pick on her, but they were all blocked by Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xini, so she had been living an easy life. Even if she did not look for trouble herself, sometimes trouble would come knocking on her door. Yun Jian noticed a heated gaze in the classroom that had been staring at her for a long time, but she pretended not to see it. It was just that the owner of the gaze could not hold it in anymore as he walked over to Yun Jian. Lu Rongrong came over to look at Yun Jian and asked in annoyance, hey, who was the person who came to pick you up last Friday? It was not Lu Rongrong's fault for asking. Siyi's looks were too alluring. His handsome face was bound to mesmerize many girls. Yun Jian looked up at Lu Rongrong before lowering her gaze to meet Chen Xini's eyes, ignoring her. It was big enough for cars to be displayed and the location was well connected. When the car store was opened in the future, it would not be inconspicuous due to its remote location. Since it was a new piece of land and there were many merchants who wanted to buy the store, the organizer decided to use the auction format. Bidding and the highest bidder would win. The auction would be held tonight. When Yun Jian heard the news, she only told Zhang Jifan, "Get ready tonight and go to the auction with me." Chapter 107. The moment Zhang Taijun saw Yun Jian, he was really stunned. He didn't have a deep impression of Yun Jian. In the past, Yun Jian was always soft and weak. Even if she was bullied, she wouldn't protest. But that day when he met Yun Jian at the hotel, she was the first to react. She pushed a few people away and dodged the sniper's bullet. At that time, Zhang Taijun was extremely shocked and frightened. Of course, at that time he was afraid of the sniper and ran away, so he didn't have time to care about Yun Jian. Today he was able to enter the auction venue because Zhang Taijun pulled a lot of strings to squeeze into the venue. What he did not expect, however, was that Yun Jian was here as well. She actually had a way to sneak in here? Not just anyone could enter the auction hall. With Yun Jian's identity and status, she didn't have the ability to enter this place at all. Yun Jian glanced at Zhang Taijun from the corner of her eyes and didn't say anything. In her impression, this nominal uncle of hers didn't care about her family. Moreover, when relatives gathered for dinner, he would show off in front of her family. After all, among the group of relatives, Zhang Taijun was more successful. He started his own business from scratch and finally became a small boss. Among the group of relatives and friends, he felt that he was different and had a sense of superiority. When Qin Yiru borrowed money from his family, Zhang Taijun was very embarrassed and fanned the flames. He was very narrow-minded. "Yun Jian, why are you here?" Although Zhang Taijun and Yun Jian were relatives, they weren't close. He even called her by her full name. Zhang Taijun obviously didn't believe that Yun Jian had the ability to enter such a high-end venue. He directly assumed that Yun Jian had sneaked in from some small corner of the fashion building. His tone wasn't very polite. And without waiting for Yun Jian to reply, Zhang Taijun frowned and continued to shout at Yun Jian in the tone of an elder, "There's going to be an auction here. The auction is about to start. How did you sneak in here? You should be more sensible. You have to know your limits even though you're already so old. This is not a place where you can come and go as you please. If there's nothing else, then hurry up and leave." He scolded Yun Jian for a while, but Zhang Taijun wanted her to leave as soon as possible. This was not a place for a child like her. Zhang Jifan, who was standing behind Yun Jian, pursed his lips and rolled his eyes at Zhang Taijun in disdain. Yun Jian raised her brow and didn't argue with Zhang Taijun. Since Zhang Taijun would also appear at the auction, some things could no longer be hidden. She would never give up the store that she had set her eyes on because of some irrelevant people or things. This was not her style. Yun Jian's pure pink cheeks became moist as she revealed a charming and beautiful smile. Chapter 108. Mayor Gu was the mayor of Longmen City and held the highest position in the city. Under normal circumstances, only others would try to curry favor with him. Mayor Gu himself didn't like the bribery between bureaucrats, so he didn't pay much attention to others. What did they see today? Mayor Gu personally greeting and befriending a teenage girl? Who was this girl? How could Mayor Gu value her so much? Zhang Taijun watched the scene unfolding before him with a face that looked like he had eaten dog poop. Yun Jian knew Mayor Gu? More importantly, Mayor Gu seemed to be friendly to Yun Jian. He was shocked and regretful. Recalling what he had said just now, he felt like he was showing off in front of an expert. Yun Jian was not reserved like others when she faced Mayor Gu. She smiled easily and looked natural as she pressed her lips together and said, "Yes, what a coincidence." "It is. Girl, are you here for the auction too? Do you want to go into the hall with me now?" Mayor Gu invited with a squint. Mayor Gu might look aloof from worldly affairs, but he had been in the government for so many years and had successfully held the mayor's position for so many years. Other things aside, he had the ability to judge people. Despite her young age, Mayor Gu had to pay attention to her based on this fact alone. Even the mafia boss had to bow down to Yun Jian. In short, even Snake Lizard had to listen to Yun Jian. Was Yun Jian really just an ordinary girl? Mayor Gu rationally chose to stand with Yun Jian. His instinct told him that this girl was not ordinary. When the crowd heard Mayor Gu's invitation to Yun Jian, there was another uproar. Yun Jian would not reject having Mayor Gu leading the team. It would save her a lot of trouble. She nodded and said, "All right." Yun Jian then gestured to Zhang Jifan, indicating for him to enter the hall behind her. Zhang Jifan was dumbfounded. He had never thought that an insignificant person like him would be invited by Mayor Gu one day. This was all thanks to Yun Jian. Just as Yun Jian and Mayor Gu were about to enter the auction hall, Zhang Tiejuan's shameless voice rang out, "Wait!" Zhang Taijun ran over and stopped in front of Mayor Gu. Although he didn't understand why Mayor Gu knew Yun Jian and valued her so much, now was not the time to talk about it. Mayor Gu, hello. I'm Xiao Jian's uncle, you can call me Xiao Zhang. As Zhang Taijun spoke, he pointed out his relationship with Yun Jian. Then he continued, it's like this. My friend and I want to apply for approval for our recent cooperation. Zhang Taijun wanted to make use of Yun Jian's relationship to talk to Mayor Gu, so that he could finish his vicious task. But before he could finish speaking, Yun Jian beat him to it. Yun Jian watched as Mayor Gu introduced Zhang Taijun word by word. She smiled and said, he is indeed my mother's sister's husband. There was an inexplicable estrangement in his words. That one sentence sealed Zhang Tiejuan's fate. Mayor Gu understood what Yun Jian meant. If they were relatives, how could they be close if they did not even address each other as uncle? Mayor Gu waved his hand. Since Zhang Taijun was not someone Yun Jian cared about, what right did he have to give him face? Hey, let's talk next time. I have something urgent to discuss with the girl. Mayor Gu waved at Zhang Taijun. Then he followed Yun Jian into the auction hall. Only Zhang Taijun, who was exasperated, was left with a sour expression. There was only one word left in his mind, it's over. Mayor Gu had mentioned his grandson and even asked her to teach him a lesson the next time she met him, not to be soft-hearted. It was really strange to have a grandfather like Mayor Gu. Suddenly Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at the auction stage. She pursed her lips slightly and spat out a line of words from her red lips. It's finally here. The area that she was preparing to bid on was finally being auctioned off. Mayor Gu was stunned. What? However, the latter half of Yun Jian's sentence shocked Mayor Gu for a long time. Yun Jian leaned back in her seat lazily and looked at Sister Li, who was speaking eloquently on the auction stage. Her eyes did not look at Mayor Gu. I want this shop. Mayor Gu followed Yun Jian's gaze and listened to Sister Li's explanation. It was a very good area and the price was very high. Ordinary people could not afford this piece of land. However, from Yun Jian's tone, she wanted to bid for this area. Chapter 110. Storefront transfer meant that the owner would sell the store to the other party. In other words, as long as the storefront was bought, it would be a personal property in the future and there would be no need to pay rent. That was why the storefront Yun Jian had her eyes on. Store number 1 of Dongchun Port had a starting bid of 2 million. 2 million was not a small sum in this day and age. Ordinary people who had assets of more than 1 million were already considered to be in the upper echelons of society. Hence, once the starting bid was announced, many who were interested in the storefront flinched. In spite of it, there were still quite a number of rich people who came today, so someone quickly made a bid. 2.01 million. A middle-aged man raised the price. Zhang Taijun, who was sitting at the back corner of the auction house, shuddered when he heard the number. He was running a small business and could be considered one of the wealthiest families in Xinjiang town. However, when he came to a place like Longmen City that was filled with hidden talents, what he could do was insignificant. Hence, he was instantly in awe of these rich people. The only thing he could not figure out was how Yun Jian was able to gain Mayor Gu's favor. Why was Mayor Gu so friendly to her? 2.02 million. Someone followed up immediately after the middle-aged man made his bid. Following that, the people who made their bids rose and fell, but there was not much of a fluctuation. It was usually a 10 to 20,000 increment. Mayor Gu's astute eyes were fixed on Yun Jian all along. Mayor Gu was someone who could not keep his thoughts to himself, so he asked Yun Jian directly, "Girl, why aren't you bidding since you want to buy this storefront?" Zhang Jifan, who sat beside Yun Jian, had the same question but he dared not ask. Yun Jian's reply was a simple word, wait. Mayor Gu was full of doubts again, but in the end he swallowed them down. Store number 1 of Dongchun Port was a storefront that many big bosses were fighting for, so the bidding price was gradually rising. It had even reached close to 3 million. In the end, some bosses who thought it was not worth it gave up, leaving 2 of them to fight for it. 1 million. Mo Shirlong, you old thing, don't fight with me. One of them had obviously reached his limit. He couldn't help but yell at the other person who had been forcing him to raise the price. 2 million. The big boss named Mo Shirlong still insisted and refused to compromise. The 2 of them were competing with each other to increase the price, and neither of them was willing to give in. Zhang Taijun, who was sitting in the corner, gasped. He muttered in his heart. Today he had finally witnessed the competition between the big bosses. That was not something that could be measured in thousands or tens of thousands. A few million for a store. He had never seen such a scene before. Chapter 111. 14.01 million. As soon as Yun Jian said that, everyone was shocked. They all looked at the little girl sitting next to Mayor Gu in disbelief. They thought that the little girl was only qualified to enter the auction because she knew Mayor Gu. Who would have thought that she would bid and increase the price by 10 million? The crowd was in an uproar and focused all their attention on Yun Jian. At that moment, Zhang Taijun, who was sitting respectfully in the corner, suddenly tensed up. He glared at Yun Jian with wide eyes, his expression complicated. In a large-scale auction like this, if one could not pay the price after bidding, they would have to bear legal responsibility. Therefore, since Yun Jian had the courage to bid, it meant that she could definitely afford it. Got more than 10 million. Zhang Taijun was trembling all over at that moment. All of his family's passbooks added up to less than 200,000. His family's wealth was enough to make people envious in Xinjiang town, but he did not expect that someone would spend more than 10 million to buy a storefront at an auction. The most important thing was that this person who made everyone dumbfounded was his niece in name. Moreover, she was the poorest among all his relatives and friends in the family. Cough, cough, cough. Sister Li could not react for a long time. Fortunately, she was an old hand at auctions and knew how to ease the atmosphere. 14.01 million. Is there anyone who wants to bid higher? Sister Li first tried to ease the atmosphere. Of course, many of the people present did not even have 14.01 million. Under such circumstances, who would continue to bid higher? Sister Li immediately started the countdown. 14.01 million going once, 14.01 million going twice, 14.01 million going thrice. Sold. Dongchun Harbor Store number 1 was now completely under Yun Jian's name. Yun Jian showed a smile that did not match her age. It was as comfortable as a spring breeze. Dongchun Harbor Store number 1 was originally auctioned for more than 10 million. It was definitely not a good deal. However, the person who bought this storefront was Yun Jian, so the situation was completely different. One had to know that she, Yun Jian, would never do a business where she would have to pay for herself if there was no profit to be made. Of course, she didn't want to compete with that group of people, so she directly raised the price by 1 degree and bought the store that was going to be auctioned. Because of this price, the others would definitely not raise the price anymore. Yun Jian paid all the fees in one go and signed a transfer contract with the owner of the previous store. The store was officially included in her name. By the time he was done, it was already late. After leaving the auction house, Mayor Gu tried to get close to Yun Jian. His intuition told him that this girl was destined to do great things. When Yun Jian left, Mayor Gu shouted after her, "Little girl. If you need anything in the future, feel free to look for me. If you can't find me, you can look for my grandson, Gu Heng. Let that brat pass the message." At this time, Yun Jian had already walked quite a distance, but she still faintly smiled. Obviously, she heard Mayor Gu's voice. She walked over and got into the Lamborghini sports car. After Zhang Jifan sat down, she stepped on the accelerator and the car sped out like a flash of lightning. Zhang Taijun had already rushed out as fast as he could, but he still could not catch up with Yun Jian's pace in time. His whole body was trembling and trembling. He did not catch up. He was screwed. This was Zhang Tiejuan's first thought. At this moment, if Yun Jian was standing in front of him, as long as she forgave him, even if he had to kneel down, it would be worth it. For the first time, Zhang Taijun felt that he had failed. He finally understood why Yun Jian was admired by Mayor Gu. Because she had the capital. She had the ability. I came to Longmen City using this as an excuse. Now that I'm leaving, I hope Sister Jian can help with the tournament. Snake. Lizard looked at Yun Jian and enunciated each word clearly. Her identity was not exposed to Su Ziqian and his gang, or he would be scared half to death. A veteran of the Kosha mercenaries had come to Longmen City to help him in the tournament. To the public, Snake. Lizard had used this as an excuse to come to Longmen City to look for Yun Jian. Of course, Snake. Lizard had left and could not find anyone to help Su Ziqian win the tournament, so the first person that came to her mind was Yun Jian. Su Ziqian did not have much status in the Kosha mercenaries, but he was still a member. Okay, Yun Jian agreed with a smile. She agreed to help. If Su Ziqian was just a member of the Kosha mercenaries, Yun Jian might not have agreed to help. After all, she was a global leader in her previous life, the big boss of the Kosha mercenaries. She was not at all interested in the petty squabbles of such insignificant people. However, Su Ziqian was the father of her brother's best friend. Alright, stop quarreling. The evening self-study session should continue as per normal. I'll say this up front. If anyone continues to quarrel in the self-study session, then don't even think about going to the autumn outing next week. Teacher, you instructed the students to calm down. But at this moment, how could the students still calm down? Other than those whose families could not afford to go, the other students were all in high spirits. However, with Teacher Yu's harsh words in front of them, the students didn't dare to make any noise. Whoosh! Chen Xinyi, who was sitting in front of Yun Jian, suddenly threw a ball of paper to Yun Jian. If there was someone behind them, they would definitely see that Yun Jian's eyes were fixed on the textbook on the table. She stretched out her hand to catch the ball of paper without even looking at it. After all, she was usually a good student who didn't get scolded by teachers. Therefore, she lowered her head and didn't even dare to look at Teacher Yu. Seeing this, Lu Rongrong became even more arrogant. She looked at Yun Jian provocatively. However, Yun Jian reached out and scratched her head. Then she looked at Teacher Yu and shrugged. She didn't feel humble at all. We didn't pass any note. Then she looked at Lu Rongrong and blinked. Student, could it be that you're old and dim-sighted? She actually said that she was presbyopic. Lu Rongrong almost exploded in anger. She ran down from her seat and went to Yun Jian's desk. She started to flip through Yun Jian's textbooks in front of Teacher Yu. Teacher, it's here. I saw it just now. Yun Jian hid the note in the textbooks on her desk. Lu Rongrong said as she flipped through the pile of textbooks on Yun Jian's desk. In the end, even the last book was flipped from cover to cover, but there wasn't a trace of the note in front of everyone's eyes. Lu Rongrong was dumbfounded. When the whole class looked at Lu Rongrong again, their expressions immediately changed. Chapter 115. Where's the note? Lu Rongrong, where did they send the note? Don't tell me you ate it? Yeah. Lu Rongrong's eyesight must be going bad. A bunch of students in the class couldn't hold it in anymore and started yelling noisily. Perhaps it was because they had heard the news about the autumn outing, but they hadn't calmed down yet. Now that Lu Rongrong was in trouble, the whole class took the opportunity to make a ruckus. Lu Rongrong's gloomy face instantly turned cold. A haze covered her entire body. She trembled and felt very wronged. She clearly saw Chen Xinyi pass the note to Yun Jian. How could it be gone just like that? Lu Rongrong, you're framing your classmate for passing notes. What else do you have to say? Teacher Yu frowned with a trace of displeasure on her face. As mentioned earlier, Teacher Yu was a very disciplined person. She especially hated students who did things under her nose. Of course, at the same time, she also disliked students who liked to report fake news and frame their classmates. It could only be said that Lu Rongrong had stepped on Teacher Yu's minefield. Teacher, I really did see the two of them passing notes. Lu Rongrong was unrepentant and even raised her voice to argue. Get out. Stand outside as punishment. Don't attend the 2 periods of self-study in the evening. You're not allowed to enter the classroom during this period. Teacher, you didn't have the patience to listen to Lu Rongrong's nonsense. She pointed at the door and growled at Lu Rongrong. Harmony was the most important thing in the class. Unity and mutual help were a good expression of the class atmosphere. However, Teacher Yu was naturally angry when Lu Rongrong randomly accused Chen Xinyi and Yun Jian of not paying attention in class. Lu Rongrong was so angry that she was about to explode. However, she didn't dare to do anything in front of the teacher. She shuffled out and glared fiercely at Yun Jian before she left. It was as if she was telling Yun Jian, "This is not over." Yun Jian returned a smile, but it only made Lu Rongrong angrier. Okay, continue with your self-study. Teacher Yu waved her hand and walked away. The first period of self-study was over. Lu Rongrong was still standing outside the door as punishment. Teacher Yu had returned to the office. Many students in the class were active outside the classroom, so there were not many people inside. Zhang Xiaofeng went to Yun Jian while he and Chen Xinyi looked at Yun Jian with admiration. It was Chen Xinyi who asked softly, Jian, how did you manage to hide the note from the teacher's eyes? Oh, where did you hide the note? Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Yun Jian expectantly as well. That's teacher, that's it, that is half. Spreading the note out in front of Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi, Yun Jian's lips curled into a smile. It's here. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi were stunned by Yun Jian's action. It was then that both of them recalled the scene just now. When Yun Jian stood up to refute that she did not pass the note, she had scratched her head. Could it be that at that time she had hidden the note in her hair bun? At that time, she was actually able to hide the note in her hair in front of the whole class without leaving a trace. How did she do it? Could it be that she knew magic? Master, you're amazing. Zhang Xiaofeng's mouth was agape and it took him a long time to speak with admiration. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had a small smile on her face without saying anything. As a secret agent in her past life, she was the best at hiding all sorts of dangerous weapons all over her body. She could walk, run, jump, and other movements without being noticed. Back then she had hidden all sorts of razor blades in her hair, including under her tongue, all over her body. As long as it could be hidden, there would be hidden weapons everywhere. Chapter 116. Haha. Lu Rongrong was so smug just now and wanted to complain about us to the teacher. She's the one who's suffering now. She's asking for trouble and reaping what she sowed. Chen Sini snickered happily and gave Yun Jian a thumbs up. My Jin Jian is the best. Yun Jian squinted and returned a smile. Looking at the lively and adorable Chen Sini, she was reminded of Lu Fian, who was still in Xinjiang town. Lu Fian was the first friend who treated her sincerely since her rebirth. She wondered if Lu Fian was doing well in Xinjiang town now. There was also the basketball team. They would meet again a year later. A week passed quickly. Yun Jian slept in class now. Due to her excellent results, the teachers did not bother with her. Perhaps when she had just been reborn a few days ago, she listened to the teacher in class without being distracted. Now, however, she could no longer listen attentively in class if she had to face the questions that she already knew with a youthful and hot-blooded attitude. When she returned home on Friday, Zhang Xiaofeng did not forget to remind Yun Jian, "Master, let's meet at the foot of Longtu Mountain tomorrow night. Remember, it's 6 in the evening. Don't be late." 6 o'clock was the start of the tournament. Yun Jian nodded and left the school gate with a backpack slung over her shoulder. She was not going home. Instead, she was going for a walk in Longmen City suburbs. The evening sky was beautiful. The rosy clouds that reflected from the horizon cast a dim yellow hue over the land, like a girl who covered her face shyly, barely visible. Longmen City was a coastal city and its city was the closest to the sea. Walking past the rows of downtown, Yun Jian came to a tranquil shore. There was no beach here, but the waves that crashed on the shore gave her a sense of tranquility that came from the bottom of her heart. Yun Jian sat down along the shore and looked up at the yellow sky, deep in thought. Life was so good now. She was carefree and did not have to worry about being assassinated or facing the pressure of death at any moment. She did not know how long such peaceful days could last. But she knew that from tomorrow onwards, there would be another battle. The challenge tournament would be her new starting point in this circle. Smelling the warm and comfortable light of the evening, Yun Jian sat in the same place. She raised her hand and stretched, with a faint smile on her face. Suddenly, a fair and flawless hand grasped Yun Jian's wrist. Yun Jian was stunned. Someone was actually able to get close to her without her noticing? She glanced over and saw Si Yi's sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, and flawless cheeks. "Why are you here?" Yun Jian wanted to pull her wrist back from Si Yi's warm hand, but she realized that his strength was not as strong as hers. "Guess." Si Yi's clear voice came out from his thin lips. He moved closer to Yun Jian and his exquisite face was even closer to hers. His breath was almost on Yun Jian's face. Si Yi's large hand was still tightly grasping Yun Jian's small hand. Yun Jian's body shrank back. She had never been so intimate with a man before. She leaned back and tried even harder to break free. Si Yi's large hand held onto her wrist firmly, causing Yun Jian to frown slightly. "Let go first." Yun Jian used her other hand to push his large hand away. "No." Si Yi tightened his grip. Yun Jian's small hand was very smooth and delicate. It was even better than the tender skin of a newborn baby. Yun Jian pursed her red lips. She used her other hand to hit Si Yi's head in an attempt to free his hand. However, Si did not let go. He held onto her wrist and tilted his head to the side to avoid her. At the same time, Yun Jian stretched out her leg to kick Si Yi's leg. However, Yun Jian did not expect that Si Yi would not let go. Instead, he pulled her into his embrace and the two of them rolled around the edge of the cliff. When they stopped, Si Yi had one hand on Yun Jian's wrist and the other hand on Yun Jian's chest to guard against Yun Jian's attack. At this moment, it just so happened to be on Yun Jian's chest. On her chest. The two of them were also in a position where one of them was on top of the other. Neither of them had expected this to happen. Chapter 117. It was obvious that Si Yi did not expect things to turn out this way. His earlobes flushed at the corners of his handsome face. Yun Jian's body had developed very well. Although she was only 15 years old, her twin peaks were already slender and elegant. He could clearly feel the softness of the young girl's ample bosom. Yun Jian's red lips widened. While Si Yi was still in a daze, she smoothly pushed him away and stood up. Her heart skipped a beat, and an unknown feeling spread through her body. Yun Jian stood up and walked away. Having lived 2 lives, she was fearless in battle and could kill without being noticed. However, this was the first time she had encountered something like this. She had only taken 2 steps when Siyi's tall figure blocked Yunjian's path. He tilted his head slightly, revealing his handsome face to Yunjian. His earlobes turned red and he awkwardly said, "Ahem, sorry. I didn't do it on purpose." Yunjian slowly came back to her senses. Her rosy cheeks were unnatural. In the next second, she pretended as though nothing had happened and said to Siyi, Why were you looking for me?" After interacting with him for the past few days, Yunjian could confirm that Siyi was the kind of person who wouldn't visit a temple for no reason. If he didn't have anything to say, he wouldn't even waste his breath talking to you. Siyi didn't hesitate. He immediately knitted his good-looking brows and moved his thin lips. "Come with me." Yunjian nodded. Thus Yunjian followed Siyi to the side of the road. Siyi's personal Lamborghini was parked by the side of the road. Yunjian sat in the passenger seat of the Lamborghini. Siyi took out a box from the back seat and handed it to Yunjian. Yunjian's eyes widened when she saw it, and her eyelashes fluttered twice. A sandalwood box. Siyi narrowed his eyes as he observed Yunjian's every move. "You know about it?" Siyi asked suspiciously when he saw something strange in Yunjian's eyes. Yunjian was stunned. She turned her head and returned the sandalwood box to Siyi. She pretended as though this was the first time she had seen it. "What do I know? I just thought that this box was very pretty. I didn't react in time. This box must be very expensive, right?" She had almost exposed her emotions. The sandalwood box's influence on her was too great. This box was the cause of her rebirth. It was also the indirect cause of her brother's death. That was why she nearly lost control of her emotions when she saw the sandalwood box just now. But why did Siyi ask her such a question? Could it be that he could tell that she knew something about the sandalwood's way? Siyi narrowed his eyes. He stared at Yunjian for a while before he finally looked away and pretended not to notice anything. To prevent Siyi from getting suspicious, Yunjian asked him, "Hey, why are you asking me this?" Nothing." Siyi's eyes lit up. He pursed his lips and started the sports car. Chapter 119. The only arena in Longmen City so far was set up here. Why was Longmen City's Longtu Mountain famous? This huge arena must have played a huge role. People who came to Longtu Mountain to train their bodies would definitely come to the arena to take a look and rest for a while at the mountainside. Of course, Longtu Mountain's scenery was beautiful and had a hint of nature to it. It was a pity that it was evening and they were at the mountainside of Longtu Mountain, so Yunjian did not get to see the beautiful scenery. Instead, she saw many common flowers and plants along the way. "Let's go in." It was not Zhang Xiaofeng's first time here, so he took the lead with a chuckle. Boys like Zhang Xiaofeng who paid special attention to fights often came to watch the arena matches. When they came to watch the matches, they did not forget to call the girls over. His purpose was naturally to show off in front of the girls and say a few professional words to show that he was knowledgeable. As expected, Yunjian could hear Gu Heng's bragging and the girls' admiring voices along the way. Yunjian merely rolled her eyes and smiled helplessly. There was a group of men standing at the entrance of the arena today, all of them dressed in black and looking solemn. This group of people gave off the feeling of gangsters in movies, making people shudder at the sight of them. Zhang Xiaofeng led the way to the arena, but he was stopped before he could enter. Everyone knew that today's challenge tournament was actually a bet between a mafia boss and a foreigner. Therefore, not just anyone could come and watch the battle. "Xiaofeng, move aside." "I'll do it." Gu Heng finally had some practical use now. He walked up and looked at the group of men in front of him with heavy expressions. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and gave them a sideways glance. In an instant, he regained his arrogance and said to them, "I'm Mayor Gu's grandson. We're here to watch today's tournament." At Gu Heng's words, the wild-looking man in front of him stepped aside. The group entered the arena smoothly. Gu Heng breathed a sigh of relief and felt smug again. "Wow, Gu Heng, you're amazing. You can even bring us in. I thought we wouldn't be able to come in." The girls began to boast about Gu Heng again. It made Gu Heng feel smug again. "Jinjian, let's sit over there." Qin Sini held Yunjian's hand and walked to an empty spectator stand. There were not many people on the spectator stand at the arena. There were people blocking the entrance. The bet today was not for ordinary people but for the mafia boss and a foreigner, so ordinary people could not enter. There was no lack of spectator stands, of course. Yunjian and Qin Sini sat on the spectator stand. On the other side, Gu Heng was still busy bragging. "He's a person. A mafia boss's man. Calm. Host. Host. Oh, that's amazing. The crowd gasped again when they heard that. At that moment, the crowd saw the beautiful silhouette who was sitting next to Chen Sini on the spectator stand suddenly walk down the spectator stand. She walked straight to the middle-aged man whom they were talking about, the man whom the mafia boss valued the most. Hey, why is she going to that person? Does she know the mafia boss's underling? Chapter 120. Before Snake Lizard left, she said goodbye to Su Zetian. She directly asked Yun Jian to replace her in tonight's challenge tournament. When Su Zetian first heard the news, he was completely stunned, but in the end he acquiesced. After all, he had no right to refuse the decision made by the Wuxia mercenaries' superiors. It was already good enough that the superiors sent someone to help him. Thinking about it from another angle, what if this thin and weak girl really had the ability to win for him? After all, the people sent by the Wuxia mercenaries were not to be underestimated. Their strength was extraordinary. Yun Jian had met Su Zetian's subordinate before, so he naturally recognized her. Su Zetian's subordinate was called Duan Lei. Duan Lei was tall and strong with a strong physique. He was the second in command of Su Zetian's Dragon Head gang. Miss Yun. Duan Lei respectfully greeted Yun Jian the moment he saw her. Although Yun Jian was very young, Duan Lei was still very respectful to her. After all, if Yun Jian dared to participate in today's challenge tournament, it meant that she definitely had some skills. Yun Jian nodded indifferently, then said to Duan Lei in a low voice, "I'm with my friend. I'll come over when the challenge tournament starts." After that, Yun Jian turned and walked away. She only came over to greet him and tell him that she had arrived. On the other side, Gu Heng and the others looked at Yun Jian in surprise. They didn't hear the conversation between Yun Jian and Duan Lei, but even though they were far away, it wasn't difficult to see that Duan Lei was very respectful to Yun Jian. You know him? He's the underworld boss's underling. Gu Heng took over everyone's confusion and asked with a sideways glance. Yun Jian pursed her red lips and smiled without saying anything. She walked past the group of unreasonable people and walked towards Chen Sini. Tissit. Why is this girl acting so mysterious? Does she really think that she's a powerful person? Does she think that she's more powerful than the underworld boss? What kind of person is this? When a girl saw that Yun Jian had ignored Gu Heng and walked away, she couldn't help but shout loudly in order to flatter Gu Heng. She was secretly criticizing Yun Jian in her heart. When this girl was criticizing Yun Jian, her voice was especially loud, as if she was afraid that Yun Jian couldn't hear her. This shout was so loud that even Duan Lei, who was standing far away, could hear it. He couldn't help but frown, but he didn't say anything. The girl muttered a few words about Yun Jian, but when she saw that Yun Jian was too lazy to pay attention to her, she stopped talking. Yun Jian had already returned to the seat between Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng and smiled at them. Gu Heng and the others also found a place to sit down, their faces brimming with youthful passion. Chapter 122. Yun Jian's verbal rebuttal to Shiniji made the audience cheer for Yun Jian. Even if Yun Jian could not win today's match, at least she represented everyone and used her words to rebuke Shiniji. This resentment was returned to Shiniji, who had looked down on the Z's people. Of course, with Shiniji's achievements and the advantage of his burly physique, the audience did not think that Yun Jian would win. "Little girl, you've successfully angered me." Shiniji flew into a rage out of humiliation and said furiously. Then he stuck out his middle finger and pointed it at Yun Jian. His scornful, arrogant, and slightly provocative tone sent chills down everyone's spine. Shiniji looked at Yun Jian and said angrily, "Little girl, since you insist on fighting in this ring, I, Shiniji, will make sure you come in standing and go down lying down." He was definitely not speaking empty words. When the audience heard Shiniji's words, they could not help but shiver. The underground black market's arena matches were very cruel. No official referee would say something like stopping when it came to a fight. When two people fought in the arena, as long as they did not die, were seriously injured, or even completely paralyzed, no one would care. Even if the other party was really beaten to death, as long as the person had connections with the higher-ups, they could still get one foot in the police station and the other out of the police station. Who was Shiniji? He was a member of Country-Wise national arena team and someone who almost made it to the international arena. He was definitely capable. His sturdy muscles were not just for show. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had thin arms, a thin waist and thin legs. She was only about 1.6 meters tall and could not even be compared to Shiniji, who was 1.9 meters tall. To put it simply, Shiniji could probably crush a handful of Yun Jian with one hand. Obviously, Shiniji's words were meant to severely injure Yun Jian during the match. After Zhang Xiaofeng and Qin Sini heard Shiniji's words, they started to worry about Yun Jian. They quickly accepted that Yun Jian was the person who was going to fight with Shiniji today, but they did not expect Yun Jian to win. After all, the difference in strength was obvious. However, Zhang Xiaofeng still gathered a few people to cheer for Yun Jian. Among them, Zhang Xiaofeng was the most enthusiastic. His hoarse shout spread throughout the arena. Master go! Master go! Yun Jian win! Yun Jian win! After Shiniji said those harsh words to Yun Jian heard Zhang Xiaofeng's hoarse shout. Yun Jian pursed her lips. She did not look at Zhang Xiaofeng and the others. Instead, she looked at Shiniji and stuck out her little finger at him. She smiled contemptuously and said, "I'll return the same words to you. Once you're in this arena, you'll have to leave lying down." This little girl was so frivolous. At that moment, this thought appeared in everyone's minds. Shiniji was frivolous because of his achievements. However, why was Yun Jian so frivolous? Pfft. Shiniji sneered at Yun Jian and said, "Then come on." The person who was hosting today's match was Duan Lei. However, even Duan Lei had to re-evaluate Yun Jian. He felt that this girl was not ordinary. However, he could not pinpoint exactly what was so special about her. There's no need to announce the start of the match. Just go up and finish it quickly. I'm always ready to deal with you. Yun Jian crossed her arms and looked at Shiniji with raised eyebrows. Her words made Shiniji so angry that he almost stomped his feet. Chapter 123. Good. I hope you can leave this place alive. Shiniji snorted in a strange tone. He clenched his fists and his knuckles cracked. Everyone who heard the sound couldn't help but shudder. On the second floor of the arena, in the VIP seats, Su Ziqian frowned as he looked at the confident girl in the arena. This match was very important to him. That was why he asked the kosher mercenaries for help. Although Yun Jian was young and looked harmless, Su Ziqian knew very well that the people sent by the kosher mercenaries were all hiding their strength. Even a 7- or 8-year-old child from the kosher mercenaries could smile and look at you in the eye for 1 second, then pull out a gun and kill your opponent in the next second. And Yun Jian, Su Ziqian stared intently at the arena, but his thoughts suddenly changed at this moment. Once Shiniji was done with his words, he bellowed and charged at Yun Jian with a clench of his sturdy fist. At that moment, everyone held their breaths. Everyone looked at the girl in the arena quietly. Yun Jian stood on the spot, narrowed her eyes and didn't move. Shiniji used all his strength in this punch. If this punch landed on Yun Jian, if she was really an ordinary girl, this punch would either kill or seriously injure her. Shiniji was going to be ruthless. Oh my god, is that girl scared silly? She's standing there without moving. Does she want to be beaten into a meat patty? Oh my god. Someone screamed at this moment. Everyone was already imagining the scene of Yun Jian being sent flying by Shiniji's punch. Some of the more timid girls closed their eyes in fear, not daring to see what would happen next. Yun Jian's grim voice sounded in their ears, "You're dead meat." Yun Jian's eyes suddenly changed and a faint smile spread from her lips. She said this to Shiniji indifferently. Shiniji's heart skipped a beat. At that moment, everyone's heart tightened into a straight line. Hua! Shiniji was even more furious after hearing this, and he swung his fist at Yun Jian. But a shocking scene suddenly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Yun Jian, who had been standing still, dodged Shiniji's punch at a speed that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Shiniji didn't think that Yun Jian could dodge his attack at lightning speed, and he was stunned for a few seconds. It was these few seconds that became Shiniji's weak point. On the battlefield, a moment of stupor was fatal. Yun Jian appeared behind Shiniji and punched him in the ribs in the back. Ah! Immense pain spread through his entire body, and Shiniji fell to the ground with a bang, letting out a heart-wrenching howl. Victory and defeat had been decided in one move. She defeated Shiniji in just a few seconds and a single move. She defeated Shiniji, an expert who almost made it to the International Challenge tournament. At that moment, Zhang Xiaofeng, Qin Sini and Gu Heng were all stunned. Even Su Ziqian, who was sitting in the VIP seats, was stunned. Shiniji, a fighter from Country Y who was rumored to be great and who almost made it into the international arena, could not even last a single move from Yun Jian. Was this Yun Jian's strength? Shiniji, whose ribs were broken, widened his eyes. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept it. This little girl defeated him with one move? That was impossible. She had defeated him. His reputation would be ruined from now on. Shiniji shook his head. He suddenly took out a hard object from his pocket and pointed it at Yun Jian. She must die. He has a gun. He has a gun. He's going to kill someone. He's going to kill someone. At that moment, everyone who was shocked by Yun Jian's move suddenly screamed. Su Ziqian also stood up from his seat with a whoosh. He held onto the railing on the second floor. However, the girl's aura changed the moment Shinji took out his gun. Her slight smile gradually disappeared and was replaced by a cold and eerie smile. A cold, murderous aura emanated from Yun Jian. Chapter 124. When they saw Shinji pull out his gun, Gu Heng and the others almost screamed. Especially the few girls who were with Gu Heng and were prejudiced against Yun Jian. They were all students in school and came from powerful families. Usually they would cry if they hurt a finger. When had they ever seen such a scene? Their legs started to turn to jelly. They hugged their heads and squatted on the ground, crying. Master. Zhang Xiaofeng twitched violently. Seeing that Yun Jian was in danger, he wanted to rush forward. However, Gu Heng grabbed the corner of his shirt and scolded him. You're crazy. That foreigner has a gun. But my master is in danger. Zhang Xiaofeng was very determined. He was about to push Gu Heng away and run toward Yun Jian. However, they suddenly saw a horrifying scene. Yun Jian lifted her feet and slowly walked toward Shinji. She did not care that the gun in Shiniji's hand was still pointed at her. Facing the black muzzle, she was not afraid at all. Under everyone's horrified gazes, she slowly walked toward Shinji. What was she doing? Seeing this scene, everyone's hearts jumped. As Yun Jian walked, she pulled out a machete like magic. She pointed it at Shinji, who was lying on the ground with broken ribs, and sneered, How dare you point a gun at me? You're dead. Shiniji's hand holding the gun was already trembling. Shinji was originally a boxer. He was not an assassin or a gangster. If he were to kill someone with a gun, he would not be able to do it as calmly as Yun Jian. Another reason was that he was in Z country. After all, it was not his country's territory. If he killed Yun Jian, Su Ziqian would definitely not ignore it. In spite of it, Yun Jian's words had obviously triggered Shinji further. Shinji howled on the spot. Thinking about the humiliation he had just suffered, his hand was about to pull the trigger. What everyone was thinking at this moment was, it's over. Yun Jian is definitely done for. Yun Jian only had a knife in her hand. How could a knife be faster than a bullet? She also had to provoke Shinji into pulling the trigger when he was in an unstable mood. Was Yun Jian courting death? Go to hell. Shinji howled. He ignored the pain in his back and aimed his gun at Yun Jian. However, just as Shiniji's finger was about to pull the trigger, a gleaming scimitar flew out from a distance. With astonishing speed and precision, the tip of the scimitar pointed downwards and cut the back of Shiniji's hand. Whoa! Shiniji's hand that was about to pull the trigger loosened, and the gun fell to the ground in a straight line. That scimitar was thrown out by Yun Jian. Just as everyone present was still shocked that Yun Jian's scimitar could cut the back of Shiniji's hand so accurately, Yun Jian took 2 steps forward and rolled a few times on the ground. Almost in an instant, she flipped over and came in front of Shinji. She got up and stepped on Shiniji's ribs that were already heavily injured. Ah! Shinji let out a heart-wrenching scream. At this moment, Yun Jian had already stepped on Shiniji's back. She bent down and picked up the gun that Shinji had dropped from the ground. She played with it in her palm. The entire process only took a few seconds. The people who saw this scene just now all stood up from their seats with a whoosh sound in horror. What did they just see? Shinji, who was holding a gun, was actually killed by Yun Jian in just a few seconds. Oh my god. He was faster than Yun Jian, who only had a knife in her hand. Who exactly was this girl? With this kind of skill and speed, this girl was definitely not human. At this moment, Yun Jian picked up the gun and pressed the black muzzle against Shiniji's face. It was unclear whether he had fainted or was scared senseless. The girl's demonic voice came from above and resounded throughout the entire place. Killing you will be as easy as slaughtering an animal. Shiniji's heart was already filled with shock and fear. He had never seen anyone so agile. Moreover, it was an underage girl. As far as he knew, there was only one kind of person who could snatch a gun from an enemy's hand. Chapter 125. However, no matter how hard Shinji racked his brains, he would never categorize Yun Jian as a secret agent or an assassin. After all, Yun Jian's age was obvious. However, her skills didn't match her age. Wait. Miss Yun, please wait. Duan Lei said as he rushed up to the stage and stopped Yun Jian from killing Shinji. Miss Yun, please spare Shiniji's life for the sake of our boss. Having witnessed what Yun Jian was capable of, Duan Lei felt genuine respect for her as he spoke to her hastily. Although Shinji deserved to die, he was a member of Country Y's national arena team. Killing him was equivalent to killing a key figure that Country Y had groomed. Naturally, Country Y's people would not let it go. This was no longer a matter of personal grudges. It would lead to a bloody battle and the consequences would be severe. You want me to let him go? Yun Jian raised her eyebrows as she held the pistol and patted the black muzzle on Shiniji's face twice. Faced with the young lady's questioning, Duanlei could not help but gulp. Finally, he mustered up his courage and nodded. Yes. Sure. Yun Jian's casual words made everyone present heave a sigh of relief. After all, this was a competition. Shiniji's drawing of a pistol was enough to make everyone afraid. If Yun Jian were to kill someone in public, many people present would probably lose sleep for several nights. At that moment, Yun Jian's eyes suddenly sharpened. She lifted her foot from Shiniji's back and took 2 steps back to stabilize herself. Then she said to Duanlei, I can let him go. At that point, even Shiniji, who was lying on the ground and starting to feel dizzy, breathed a sigh of relief. The one thing he regretted the most was underestimating Yun Jian. Don't mess with her. But his hand, I want it. Yun Jian's casual words were suddenly heard in the next second. What followed was the crisp sound of a gunshot. Bang, bang. The gunshot sounded and the gun fell. 2 bullets pierced through Shiniji's wrist and into his bone marrow. Shiniji howled in pain. When the bullet entered his hand, it was as if it had penetrated a piece of wood, piercing his liver and spleen. The screams came from the spectators' seats. Spear. Yun Jian actually fired the gun. Compared to some timid girls, Zhang Xiaofeng and the others were full of passion. Although they were also afraid, they couldn't help but admire Yun Jian from the bottom of their hearts. Everyone present had seen Shiniji's previous attitude. Shiniji had not only ridiculed Yun Jian, but more importantly, he had ridiculed Country Z. He had ridiculed their country. Just based on this point alone, even if Shiniji died 10,000 times, it wouldn't be enough to appease the hatred in their hearts. Looking at his wrists that were shot by the pistol, Shiniji fainted. Yun Jian's 2 shots not only crushed Shiniji's dignity, but also ended his career as a boxer. Because Shiniji's meridians were broken, it was equivalent to his hands being crippled. The most basic requirement for a boxer was to have a pair of strong hands. After Yun Jian fired the shot, she threw the pistol to Duanlei and said, Tell your boss that I've won the match. After she finished speaking, she turned around and walked out of the ring. Duanlei hurriedly caught the pistol that Yun Jian had thrown to him. He swallowed his saliva and turned around to clean up the mess. Seeing that the match had ended, the protagonist, Yun Jian, also walked out. Zhang Xiaofeng and the others hurriedly ran out after her. Chapter 126. Before Yun Jian could step out of the arena, Zhang Xiaofeng's urgent voice came from behind her. Master, master. Master, wait for us. She turned around and looked up at them with a faint smile. The arena is over. It's dark now. It's time to go home. Zhang Xiaofeng and the rest, who were running up behind her, could not help but be speechless. They muttered in their hearts, shouldn't you explain something? Master, what happened just now? Why did you fight with that foreigner? Also, your posture just now was so cool. By the way, how did you throw the knife out just now? That move was so powerful. It was like a living version of Xiao Li's flying knife. Zhang Xiaofeng's words were fired like a machine gun. Stop, Yun Jian ordered. This voice shut Zhang Xiaofeng up on the spot. He did not say anything else. How am I supposed to answer you with so many questions at once? Yun Jian raised her beautiful eyebrows and smiled shyly like a young girl. At this moment, Yun Jian seemed to have turned into a fresh and beautiful young girl. It was as if the young girl who was dismissive of Shiniji just now did not exist at all. Then we'll answer them one by one. Master, why were you the one who fought with that foreigner just now? Also, why didn't you tell us this earlier? Zhang Xiaofeng asked the question that everyone wanted to know. Pairs of black eyes stared at Yun Jian in unison. Yun Jian pursed her lips and finally opened her mouth. She reached out and snapped her fingers in the air. Then she pursed her lips at Zhang Xiaofeng and smiled mysteriously. Take a guess. After that, she turned around and did not intend to explain further. However, what Yun Jian did not expect was that Zhang Xiaofeng and the rest would follow closely behind her, begging her to teach them the domineering moves just now. Even Gu Heng followed closely behind Yun Jian. He even apologized to Yun Jian for his previous actions. This caused Zhang Xiaofeng to brag to Gu Heng and the others somewhat childishly, "This is my master." Yun Jian finally got rid of Zhang Xiaofeng and the group of people who were chasing her to get to the bottom of things. She set foot on the road home. It was chilly at night, especially when it was close to winter and autumn. The weather changed quickly, and the temperature difference between day and night was large. Yun Jian was wearing a jacket today, but she still felt a little cold. As they walked past the street lamp, a sports car drove past them and stopped beside Yun Jian. Yun Jian had not expected the car to stop. She pulled her jacket around herself and turned around. Coincidentally, she saw Ce sitting in the Lamborghini looking at her. He tilted his head, and his chiseled features became clearer under the street lights. Get in the car, Ce spat out 2 words from his beautiful thin lips. Yun Jian did not stand on ceremony. She immediately walked over to open the door of the Lamborghini and sat in the front passenger seat. The heater in the car warmed up Yun Jian's body temperature. Why are you wearing so little every time? Do you want to freeze to death? Ce raised the temperature in the car again and glanced at Yun Jian. Yun Jian opened her mouth but found that she could not refute him. In the end, Yun Jian only said one sentence, "Why are you looking for me?" Ce paused and a trace of warmth appeared on his flawless face. "I'm taking you to a banquet. I'll be back tomorrow. Auntie has already informed you, so you don't have to worry about staying out all night." As he spoke, he did not allow Yun Jian to resist at all. He stepped on the accelerator and sped off. By the time Yun Jian reacted, Ce had already taken her to the back of the mountain. They boarded Ce's private jet and hurried to Country M.